Hi, Trevor here, reflecting on life through music. Thank you for stopping by. Well, I trust you enjoyed my last video on 1980s phenomenon band The Culture Club, and through Boy George and his image in particular, and the diversity they were trying to bring into the music scene in the new wave movement. We looked at cultural competence, which is so important in this world today. Well, we're going on to this quirky little movie in 1984, and who would have thought how relevant and prophetic this movie always is be looking where we are today. 1984, a science fiction romantic comedy set in 1984 in San Francisco, Electric Dreams came out. This movie was directed by Steve Barron, who had done some music videos up to this point, including Michael Jackson's Billie Jean and Bryan Adams' Summer of '69. Pretty amazing songs, those two. It starred Lenny Van Dolen, who was also in Home Alone 3. He was the architect Miles in this movie. Then we had Virginia Madsen, who starred as the love interest next door neighbour Madeline. And she was a cellist, becoming pretty amazing cellist. And she was in the 1980s movie June, which was a pretty amazing movie, which great to see that book be brought into a movie. And then there was a computer named Edgar. Now, the movie had mixed reviews when it came out, but this movie kind of has stuck in my memory a little bit. Now, the movie is about a love triangle between Miles and Madeline and Edgar, which was a personal computer in this particular movie. Now you might be thinking, well, what's this got to do with today? Well, we'll get onto that in a minute, because trust me, there's some really big parallels going on here. Probably the easiest way to actually look at this video today, because there are a few clips from the movie, is to actually bring up this YouTube clip again and just get yourself ready with the links in the description below, which is where, as you know, they always are. So, Electric Dream. So Miles was a bit of an architect, and you come up with it. Now, I'm assuming that, you know, we're not going to have to worry about spoilers here. 1984. If you've seen the movie, you know all about it. So there we go. So Miles was an architect. He had thought, because San Francisco had the massive earthquake in the early 1900s, he thought, well, if we can actually make building blocks out of jigsaw-like pieces, that could work really, really well. And so, pretty revolutionary idea, but it was a bit too much for him to do it on his own, so he bought a computer to help him. And the relationship between the Miles and the computer begins. Of course, Edgar is just a little bit more clever than just a computer. He becomes a bit of a character all of his own in this movie, which makes him so compelling. So to start off the clips, we've got the song Video by Jeff Lynne. Now, Jeff Lynne is ELO genius, and it was around 1984 that Secret Messages, 1982 the Secret Messages was released, and then the last album for ELO, 1986, Balance of Power. Well, this is kind of between those two albums. So ELO was kind of coming to the end, and Jeff Lynne was starting to do some other things. Now, in typical ELO style, he was just the perfect man to write a song for this movie, and Video is just electronic genius right here. So to set the theme going, we've got a video, we've got the song Video, and just gives you a bit of a feel for this movie, how exciting the future was actually going to be. So anyway, Miles started to get to know Edgar a little bit. And one day, Edgar, who just been left on, discovered this cello music coming from downstairs, and this was Madeline practicing her cello. And in beautiful computer style, it's a pretty compelling clip, this one, and we've got to pay tribute at this point to Giorgio Moroder, who wrote an absolutely amazing soundtrack for this movie. We got the duel, and eventually you see real cello and computer coming together to create this absolutely stunning piece of music. And it was at this point, Madeline started to get interested in where on earth was this music coming from. And at the same time, there was a bit of a relationship forming between Miles and Madeline as well. So it was all starting to get a bit interesting at this point. Of course, if you're going to win your way into a cellist's heart, you're going to do it through music. And Edgar well and truly knew that. And he was just really getting into that zone really, really quickly, far too quickly for a computer. The computer very much is a character in this movie. And so what was happening, Miles and Madeline were getting together and Edgar was getting jealous, more jealous and more jealous and more jealous and more jealous. And so things started to happen, like he started to cancel Miles' credit cards and do a few other things like that. And so it was getting pretty ugly for Miles in halfway through this movie. Well, Miles realised, obviously, too, that music was the way to Madeline's heart. And so he got Edgar to compose a piece of music. And in one of the most compelling parts of this movie, Madeline discovers the computer and she hears this tune. And this is Giorgio Moroder is absolute best right here. And a tear from Madeline drops on the keyboard and touches the computer's software heart, I suppose. So it's a bit of a moment there. It's also a bit of a moment for Madeline to realise, hey, there's something a little bit more going on here than just the computer, and she runs out of Miles' apartment, a bit of shock and a bit of just in fear in the whole thing. And so there's some sense a bit of making up, breaking up, and all sorts of things going on here. Now, Edgar is probably the most insightful character in this whole movie because he starts to realise what's going on as a computer and realising that he's just overstepped the mark a little bit here. And towards the end of the movie, there's a beautiful scene where he says goodbye to Miles. Now, Miles can't live without Edgar at this point. Miles has completely been taken over by Edgar, and how much is that happening right now? Just stay with me on that one. And Edgar has to realise he has to sever the relationship because you know what? That's what love, which is what Edgar has at this point, actually does. It does not get in the way of what needs to happen. And so there's a beautiful scene where Edgar sends 40,000 volts around the world to blow himself up. And that's kind of where the movie ends. And so you see the shattering of the screen and then the starting of that iconic song, Together in Electric Dreams, of course, sung by Human League alumni Phil Oakey, and again written by Giorgio Moroder. And then you see Madeline and Miles, and as they should be, get in the car, a couple of bikes on the roof of the car, and say, no phones, no TV for the next 2 weeks, and off they go. And as a final little touching part of the scene, that song ends up taking over the airways. All the radio stations are playing it. No one knows where the song comes from. As a bit of a parting gesture of Edgar to Miles and Madeline into the world. So a beautiful little movie, this one, and really, really quite ironic what it's talking about and where we are today. Now, you might be thinking, well, Trevor, that was a computer. Well, you know what, guys? And you're not going to like me saying this, I know that. I think we've been taken over, guys. Human race has been taken over by our phones. I think they're now at the top of the tree. We get stressed when we don't have them. We get stressed when they go flat. We buy them presents, earbuds for our ears, accessories for the cars, the cases, all of that sort of stuff. We take them to shows with us and we're holding them up to video what's on stage. Everywhere they go, we go. And, you know, the implications of that are interesting. You know, we have our earphones on when we're walking our dogs. We might even have our earphones in when we're taking our children out. Listen to wherever we are, they are. And there's a bit of a love triangle happening here. If you're in a relationship, there might be 4 of you. You and your partner and both of your phones. And you might both be sitting there on the couch, both looking at your phones and not talking to each other. I think this has snuck up on us. And of course, the computer industry has no shortage of accessories to go with this stuff either. Do we put our phones down, guys? You'll be thinking, why would I want to do that? Well, how's your ability to have a conversation going? How's your ability to concentrate going? How's the ability to keep attention on something that's not your phone going? How's the ability to leave your phone at home when you go to a show? How's all that going, I wonder? Now you might be thinking, oh, Trev, I'm just going to turn you off right here. No, don't do that. And you might be thinking, you'll be actually watching this on your phone. That's really, really hilarious. But it was the computer in Electric Dreams that actually severed the relationship, because Miles was never going to do it. In fact, Miles in that final scene is very sad to see Edgar go. But I just wonder whether just to watch ourselves a little bit here. Have we let phones take us over completely? We know the damage they can do. We know about cyberbullying, and we know about the blue screens and the impact on sleep and the whole thing. Doesn't seem to be making much of a difference. We've got to have our phones wherever we go. Now, there could be one answer to this actually, and that is turn the data off. Just turn it off. Just use them for phones, texting, maybe taking photos, but don't put them up on Facebook. Take them home, upload it in your computer and do it then, and who am I to talk? I do that myself. But I'm just wondering whether something has changed in society, no longer a society. We don't have a society, can't have a society without our phones. So whatever you do with that, I'll leave that one totally up to you. All I can say is thank you for hanging around, as you've just heard me have a little bit of a thing like that. And, in fact, for people who are having a fresh start in life too, and trying to work out life again, the world can be a very, very isolating experience. And it seems even more isolated when people have got their earphones in looking at their phones. Let's raise our eyes a little bit and look at this beautiful world around us and see how wonderful the world can be. So I trust that will all kind of be, a bit of an encouragement for you today. I think the final finale is a bit of a poignant moment for us to have a look at today as we consider our interactions with our phones and our interactions with Electric Dreams as well. So I trust that will all be an encouragement for you today, and I have included, just as a final bit of a sum up, just a bit of a more reflective version of Electric Dreams. Beautiful couple of guys on guitars by the Moon Loungers. So that's just a little chance for you to reflect on your relationship with your phone, because we have a relationship with our phones, guys. We really, really do. And sometimes someone needs to say it, just the way things are. So if you've come back today as I've looked at this thing, who would have thought a movie in 1984 would actually be quite prophetic about where we are right now? And it's quite amazing. In fact, if you want to watch Electric Dreams, it's actually not bad. Or you've come back for another one. This is your first time to Life Reflections through Music. Thank you for everyone for hanging around today. I trust it's been encouragement as always. Well, that's it for today. Next time we're going to go on to a guy from France called F.R. David, who had a bit of a hit in the 1980s. Words don't come easy. And it could be they don't come easy because we're looking at our phones more and more than we used to. Anyway, I'll just leave that one with you. So that's where we're headed next time. So until then, I'll catch you around. Bye for now.